The Oneida State Academy was built over 100 years ago in 1895. It is now one of the few left of the 30 or more academies built across the West by Mormon pioneers. Building the academies was an effort of the LDS Church to develop the faith of their youth as they not only learned their religion, but a wide variety of secular subjects.
Well, I grew up right across the street from where the academy used to be. During my lifetime, it was a school where they had a band and shop and art. And in the basement, the very basement, they had a cannery.
Well, it's our heritage, of course, because I was born and raised in Preston, where this academy was built. I attended school in the academy. It was part of the high school when I went through the secondary system. And it was always been part of my heritage to understand that education was an important thing in a person's life. And I realized that my grandfather, who was called on a mission to build this building, also realized the importance of education, and because he wanted his 11 children to be educated, and all of them were educated in that building. One of the interesting things when I was going to school there, the youngsters always liked to get up into the bell tower. And of course, the custodians would keep the door to the staircase locked, but it was the old style of lock with a key in the door frame, and it was easy to bypass that lock. So the way the structure is built, coming into the front door and going up from the main level up to the upper level, there was 2 staircases, and they weren't visible to each other. If you went up one, you know, somebody could be coming down the other one and you wouldn't even know it. So what we would do is we'd go up into the bell tower and ring the bell 3 or 4 times, and then run back down and wait at the top of the 2 staircases to see which one either a teacher or a custodian or somebody was going to come up, and then we'd go down the other end to get away from them. So that was kind of a game we played when we were going to school there in the mid-40s, 1940s.
Well, this building, since there's a lot of people that graduated from this school.
It's a magnificent structure, and in addition to being a sacrifice to build, it actually was the school facility for Ezra Taft Benson and Harold B. Lee, 2 of the prophets that came out of the church.
There's been many people over the years that have strived to keep it up and preserve it the best that could be done. It had come to the point where the school had to have it moved so they could go on with their plans to build a library and cafeteria. So we had to plan for its move or plan for its demise. Everything anymore is throwaway society. It's and always has been. The architecture of the building is well, it's the most beautiful building in Preston, I believe. Preston has its academy, and India has its Taj Mahal, and I just think keep our academy and preserve it for the future.
It not only is a structure of great quality, it's a facility that has great history behind it. Many graduated from it, and even though that generation is quickly going, the sacrifice and the quality and what it represented needs to be around so that the next generation and the generation after that will see what kinds of things were done by the pioneers that still mean, even in contemporary society, what our quality of life is about.
The school started talking about tearing the building down because they wanted the space for expansion. And understandably so. Preston High School is pretty crowded, and they did need some new facilities. So they started talking about this, and I started writing articles, and at the same time I met Joseph Linton at a career fair at Preston High School and found out that he had been involved in the restoration of some buildings down in Utah, and thought, wow, you might be just who we're looking for.
I initially was introduced to the project in the late 90s when Nisha called me and said, because I was in the area, lived in the area, and being an architect, was I aware that the Academy building might be torn down. And I honestly didn't even know what the Academy building was, and so I was new enough to the area that I wasn't aware of the structure, so I made a trip from Mink Creek down to Preston, found the building, and was totally blown away by its quality. It's Gothic Romanesque with Romanesque characteristics, and of such a stature that I felt that it had to be preserved. One of a kind. And as I did more research, I found that it probably is one of the last or few remaining academies left in the Intermountain West that the church built in the 1800s. It was built in 1895, remarkable structure. The pioneers that sacrificed to build it and the craftsmen that put together the quality of both stonework and woodwork was quite remarkable.
I became involved probably 3 or 4 years ago when I started attending meetings on the Pioneer Historic Byway, which the Academy was identified as a landmark. It was suggested to me that we apply for a federal enhancement grant for $500,000, so I took it upon myself to write this grant.
So I told him about it and didn't know what happened for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden he had the Mormon Historic Sites Foundation involved. He had the feasibility study done. He had found a mover, and I just wrote about it because I was writing for the newspaper at the time, and I thought, wow, this is great. And then when Joe came to me 2 years ago, then that's when I got involved as their publicist and trying to garner information, garner interest so that people would know what was going on and we could find those who could help us support it.
I took it upon myself to contact a local mover to see if moving the Academy was feasible, and which he said that it was. And once I found that out, then I proceeded to write the grant.
And so I began writing letters and wrote 1 or 2 letters regarding the quality of it, and it began at that point that we became more serious about trying to preserve it. And it became real evident that it couldn't stay where it was. It was built around by the existing school. The impact of the school was so close that really one was a hazard to the other. The building had not been designed to meet earthquake standards, and part of the building had collapsed during the 64, 63 earthquake, whenever that was. Just a part of the cornice, and so the school was very worried about its safety. They wanted it demolished, and so we actually explored the idea of demolishing the school instead of the academy because we thought the academy was more important than the school. But the board quickly told us that wasn't possible, and we then began to explore, okay, what can we do with it? Can we actually move it? Which seemed like when you're moving several million pounds of stone like an impossible task. But as I did research on that, we really found that there were movers who could move it, and they were qualified to do so.
I went to the site, understood the situation. I brought it back and presented the project to our board. They found it to be worthy of our attention, and then we began to basically be a player in the restoration project. Hopefully that added some prestige enough as we approached the school board to let them know that we were involved, and had several meetings with them to have them have a level of comfort that this move was possible and these substantial funds could be raised.
The Historic Sites Foundation has restored several Mormon sites around the country and had quite a credibility record. I mean, we were very impressed with what they had done. We put together a feasibility study, and the feasibility study said it was feasible, it should be saved, and it could be moved. And so I then just started exploring what it would cost to move. And after doing quite a bit of research on that, found that it would be about $1 million to move it.
You cannot raise those funds from doing bake sales. You have to be able to take the project and present it to people of means who have an interest and a commitment to such things, and really obtain their support.
None of us have any experience in doing this other than the Mormon Historic Sites Foundation, so we were just doing what we could do to get the word out that we've got to raise the money or the building will be torn down by the deadline that the school district gave us, because they had to move on with their plans, and so they had set a deadline, and so we just publicized it, said it's out there, and talked to whoever we could think of.
Several deadlines actually transpired. The school board was very good to us, gave us additional time.
Well, when their deadline came and passed and we didn't have any money, I thought, well, I can't say I was worried that it wouldn't come, but I did wonder if maybe it was just something I really wanted and it wasn't what's going to happen.
2 weeks later, we had a $250,000 grant from Larry Miller.
When Larry Miller gave his donation, I thought, hey, we didn't do that. Somebody's opening doors for us, and if this thing is supposed to happen, it's going to happen. And so really from that point on, I've never really doubted that it was going to happen. Had no idea how it was going to happen, but I haven't doubted that it was going to happen.
And after I think several attempts to put it together, they finally said, you've got one more deadline. And that's the deadline that had us all very nervous, because we were at about $600,000 or $700,000, and we knew we had to be to about $1 million to make it work. And in the last few weeks, those remaining funds came in. One of the real remarkable things about this is, even though we had some major donors that helped put this over the top, the grassroots donors coming out of the Franklin County area, or the generations that have left Franklin County that knew of the building, was really rewarding. And a good part of our funds were raised by these people, some $10, some $20, maybe $100 or $1,000, but it all added up. And that was one of the real gifts that we got from the community, received from the community, was the grassroots funding.
And we were able to raise $100,000 just from private local individuals that gave $5 here and $1,000 there.
I mean, how can you explain how people have spent, I think, hundreds of hours both in just going out and meeting, shaking hands, introducing the project, drawings, research, knocking on doors, getting these $10 gifts given to us. It's all been, at this point, a remarkable commitment, sacrifice on people's part to donate their time freely to get it to this point. All of the hundreds and thousands of hours probably that have been donated have been done at, with a lot of joy and a lot of happiness, but a lot of sacrifice too.
With all the sacrifice and donations made, and a little luck, enough money was finally raised to begin working to prepare the century-old academy for the big move.
And we all cheered and told the school board we were ready to go, and nobody believed it, but the next thing we knew, they were out there sawing the building loose from its foundation and jacking it up. And I think the real breaking point in terms of our making headway on it was when we found out that the Mormon Historic Sites Foundation, which worked out of Salt Lake and whose interest was in preserving historic sites that were of Mormon heritage, that their chairman was Kim Wilson, who actually graduated from the academy.
There were some obstacles. When they first started cutting the building from the foundation, they discovered that the interior of the wall was not solid. And whether that's because it was built that way originally or whether over the years the grout has just softened, it was a different quality of grout, we had to go back and readjust how we were going to move the building. And that was worrisome, but still, if we got that far, the miracles that had to happen to get us that far, they weren't going to quit, and so we just kept going on.
There was a lot of people that felt that the minute it was, the foundation was knocked out, that it had come tumbling down. There's a lot of people that felt that if it possibly got moved off the foundation, that it'd fall down in the hollow to the east of it. So there was constant pessimistic tone in town. And there was quite a few people that hoped that it would fall down. So it's been a challenge from the get-go. You've got to understand, even there was people, I think, in our local wards that didn't believe it could be moved, and I think there was quite a few people that were against even the thought of giving up a corner of the park to have it moved too.
In fact, the last two big donors that came in were right within the last month before the moving contractor started work. And there was a lot of apprehension up until that time.
And the building produced a lot of really well-educated and successful giving people. We need their support back. We need the support of the philanthropists in the area because it's their history too. It is one of the very last academies there is standing, and it represents all of them. You can't find a better example of what went into carving civilization out of the West.
After a lot of hard work and determination by everyone involved, they were finally ready to move the 1,800-ton academy off its 108-year-old foundation and begin the 8-day trek to set it in its new home only 3 blocks away.
And the night, it was a cold fall night.
And it was after dark because that's just the time it took to get everything just right. And it was as if everybody was just holding their breath when they said they were going to start to move that building. And then it was just a spontaneous cheer. They really pivoted that building on a tight pivot. And watching these tires on these dollies twisted beyond anything I had ever seen, twisted without blowing apart, I couldn't believe it. And they would twist so hard and get kinked so hard because they were being twisted in such a tight angle, they'd actually have to lift them up and reset them.
We had to pick it up very evenly. We couldn't put one place heavier and the next place lighter with the same pressure. Now the unified system, regardless of load any jack has, it travels up the same. You have to lay the whole route out and so forth in order to know where you're going to place your dollies and so forth. Then what is the building made of? How heavy is it? How much material does the contractor have? What have we got to work with? You can't work with all new equipment that you buy for this job. The moving contractor has a certain amount of equipment, and we figure his equipment into the equation. So there's a lot of thought that goes into a moving job like this.
3 long blocks later, the building was laid to rest in its new home on the corner of Benson Park, where it can finally be seen after over 50 years of being hidden by the high school. Now the long and expensive process of restoration is what the foundation must face next.
I believe that when it's restored in its original glory with all of the quality of modern architecture associated with it, that it'll be a major community center that Preston and Franklin County and other people touring, coming into that area, visiting, will see this structure on a prominent site. We'll be able to go through it. We'll be able to see some of the historic nature of the early pioneer days of Preston, Franklin County.
I have gone to so many weddings where people in Preston will travel clear to Providence and rent that old rock church because it's neat, it's beautiful. And people getting their kids married, they want to give them something beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with having your reception in a church, but some people want something beautiful, not just nice. And so now we're going to have something where people can have functions, whether it be a reception or a reunion or a concert or an art show or any kind of public gathering. They can have it in a place that's not only beautiful, but historically significant, place that many of their grandparents and great-grandparents enjoyed when they were there, so it has meaning to them. And that's what I'm excited about.
There's also one of our major contributors wanted a little reading room in there that people could go in and just read. It has a beautiful ballroom in the upstairs.
Well, we have 3 floors in the building. The lowest floor we want to make a small restaurant or food service that can supply the community when they're having socials there with some kind of food service. We also will have offices on the basement floor, as well as we'll have restrooms and things that'll meet the American Disabilities Act. Obviously, we've got to bring it up to code. And that main floor, or that basement floor, will house those kinds of things. The main floor, the first floor, will be a museum. And it has 1 large room and 2 smaller rooms, and we'll have probably a classroom and some museum facilities. Then the 3rd floor will be a community floor that will be used for social events, receptions, etc.
We're right close to the Battle of the Bear River and the Bear River Massacre site, and we'd like to have an interpretive center there.
One of the goals is, it was a school of course, is that we restore a couple of classrooms there that are part of a museum environment, and that would be on the main floor. We are anticipating getting a lot of artifacts that come back from the Daughters of the Sons of the Utah Pioneers. And of course, to make all that work, we've got to bring the building up to code. We've got to stabilize it structurally for earthquake. That means we've got to reinforce all of the walls. We've got to develop shear walls and shear floors and tie it all together so that if there's an earthquake, it'll hold together. We've got to bring it up to code with respect to restrooms, meet the American Disabilities Act, so we've got to put an elevator somewhere within the facility. And of course, modernize everything from heating to electrical. Well, there are a lot of things that are in the building that have occurred after it was built, and we consider those historic in that on the outside in the stonework people have carved initials, and in the staircase that lead up to the bell tower there are hundreds of signatures in pencil and ink and what have you, and for the most part we intend to keep a lot of that. Good historic restoration really means that you don't erase all of the history. Now there are some things obviously we'll take out and freshen up the building, but you'll find when it's all finished there will be some carvings in some of the stonework outside. And though I don't think we'll make it real public, that staircase will keep the names that are currently scrawled in there. And they go back, I think it was just said, back to 1899. And I believe it's just part of that history that will be around for generations to come.
Although the building was moved successfully, the Academy still faces one large obstacle.
We're still needing quite a bit of money to finish the project. We've been able to pay for everything up to this point, but we need more funds to stabilize the building, earthquake-proof it, windows, remodeling the interior, many things. Some people might have talents in stonework or carpentry, or some companies might have access to windows. You know, anything. I think the major thing needs to be donated as money. But if people have ways and means to do some of the things that we need to have done to the building, it'd be great also. At times it's been kind of trying to be able to accomplish the things that we needed to do, but we've all stuck together, and I think everybody's kept a pretty cool head and been able to get along and see it to this point.
The thing that impresses me about this whole project is that there was a lot of different parties that were working independently for a while. You know, it started in the late 70s with Newell Hart, and he gave the last few years of his life to restoring this academy. In fact, his funeral was held in the academy, and they weren't able to get his body up to the upper floor, but I mean, this was his life work. You know, I think it's important that even though a lot of us were working independently, you know, maybe a couple of years after that, we all came together in a unified effort and in saving the academy, and it was remarkable the way the events happened that we were able to do this.
The most rewarding part of this was seeing that on wheels, rolling down the road, because I knew that we had succeeded to that point. It made national history. I mean, it really did. It was in papers throughout the West, and even went as far, I think, east as some of the eastern papers. You just don't pick up a building like that and move it without a lot of preparation and a lot of work. And so when that first creak was heard as it moved, was quite a remarkable moment. And I think we all knew then that we had succeeded. And now being on its foundation, we certainly know we're going to succeed.
And I think the reward is going to come in the future after we get this project finished, in the admiration that I will feel, and I think most residents in the community will feel when they see it finished and in such a beautiful location and such a beautiful structure.
The most rewarding thing for me is seeing something that we believed could happen. Because there's plenty of people out there saying, you can't do that. That's just, you know, whatever the saying is, pipe dreams. No, it's if you set your mind to something and you just keep going after it, if it's a good thing, it'll happen. And I think that has been the most rewarding thing. And I think that is one of the other reasons why I want to save the building, is because when those pioneers first built that building, some of them were living in log huts, and yet they were building this beautiful castle-like structure for their kids to go to school in. And they had this image in their mind of what they could give their kids, and they went out and they did it. And they didn't go to Lowe's and find the bolts that they needed and the nuts and the hammers and the things that they needed. They went out and made the tools to make the parts of the building that they needed to build the building. If they needed it, they just did it. And that's what the building means to me. And that's what moving it has meant to me. It's the same principle that if you can believe it, or if you can believe it, you can achieve it. And I just want that shared.
Well, as an architect, I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I think it's been a great experience for me. There are a few times in your life when you have that opportunity. And when they come along, I think you've got to grab them and make them work, because we could have easily lost, one of the most significant buildings in all of Idaho, and even in Cache County, Cache Valley, including northern Utah. It is that good. And so we're delighted to have taken it this far, and I think we've all enjoyed the opportunity of participating and feel sort of the afterglow of some success at this moment.
We really appreciate all of the support of the people, and it's exciting to see it's not just something that we think is neat, because I've had people call me from across the nation who have picked up on the story and that are watching it over the internet. As the stories get published, they'll watch it. It's not just something we think is neat. It is a neat thing. It is big time.
Just hope that the necessary funds come soon so we can finish the project.